into Mitchell and Son's main conference room. Dad at the head of the table naturally. Mom to his right, organizing her presentation on keeping the business in trusted hands. My brother James beside her, already rehearsing his acceptance speech for CEO. Executive family members only, Dad had smirked an hour ago, closing the door in my face. You understand, don't you, sweetheart? These discussions are for people who actually run the company. By people, he meant men. Specifically, James, the son who'd nearly bankrupted 3 departments but still got promoted because he had the Mitchell spirit. Ms. Mitchell, my assistant Thomas appeared at my office door. The shareholders are ready in the video conference room. They're eager to meet the anonymous buyer who acquired 67% of the company over the last year. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to check, was that while they were grooming James for leadership, I'd been quietly buying up company shares through various investment vehicles. Every time they dismissed my suggestions, I purchased more stock. Every time they promoted James despite his failures, I acquired another block of shares. The board members have arrived too, Thomas added, checking his tablet. Though your parents think they're just here to rubber stamp James's CEO appointment. I smiled, remembering last week's family dinner. The board meeting is just a formality, Dad had announced, carving the roast. They always follow the family's recommendations. Next week, James takes over as CEO. Are you sure that's wise? I'd asked carefully. Given the Anderson contract disaster? Mom had bristled. That wasn't James's fault. How was he supposed to know the client would actually read the fine print? Maybe by reading it himself? I'd suggested. Before losing our biggest account? Now, Sarah, Dad had patronized, leave the business discussions to those who understand them. Why don't you focus on your little investment hobby? My little hobby had just given me controlling interest in their precious family company. Your father's starting his speech, Thomas reported, watching the feed. The usual about Mitchell men leading Mitchell and Sons since 1978. I checked my reflection in the window. At 35, I looked younger than most CEOs, but the tailored charcoal suit and Harvard MBA carried their own authority. Authority I'd earned while my family was busy protecting tradition. James is showing his presentation now, Thomas continued. He's explaining his vision for the company's future. I pulled up James's slides on my laptop. The same recycled ideas he'd been pushing for years, each one more disconnected from market reality than the last. And now your mother's up, Thomas narrated. She's talking about preserving family values, maintaining the old ways, keeping control in the right hands. The right hands. Like James, who'd lost $40 million on a venture Dad had called visionary right before it collapsed. Or Dad himself, who'd refused to modernize until our competitors nearly put us out of business. My phone buzzed, a text from James. Sorry you couldn't make the meeting, sis. But don't worry, I'll make sure you keep your current position. Maybe even give you a small raise. My current position was officially Director of Investment Relations, a title they'd created to keep me occupied with what they considered busy work. They never bothered to check what that position allowed me to do with company shares. The board chairman is ready, Thomas announced. Everyone's assembled in the main conference room except the family members who think they're about to crown James as CEO, I finished, standing up. Are the security teams in place? Thomas nodded. Once I entered that room, no one would leave until the new ownership was established. Your father's wrapping up, he checked the feed one last time. He's saying something about the Mitchell name being synonymous with male leadership. I straightened my CEO badge and picked up my folder containing James's failure records, Dad's outdated policies, and the shareholder agreements giving me control of the company. Ready? Thomas asked. I thought about all the meetings I'd been excluded from. All the ideas they'd dismissed without reading. All the times they'd promoted James despite his incompetence, simply because he was the son they'd always wanted in charge. The Mitchell name is about to become synonymous with something very different, I smiled, heading for the conference room. Let's go make some family history. Through the conference room's glass wall, I watched Dad wrap up his speech. And so, as we've always known, Mitchell and Sons will continue under strong male leadership. I caught the board chairman's eye. Mr. Peterson gave an almost imperceptible nod. He'd been one of the first to learn the identity of the mysterious majority shareholder. Before we vote on James's appointment, Mr. Peterson interrupted smoothly, there's the matter of the ownership changes to discuss. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Just some minor stockholder shuffling. Nothing that affects the family's control. If only she'd actually read the quarterly reports I'd prepared instead of just praising James's coffee-stained memos. Actually, Mr. Peterson continued, over the past 12 months, a significant portion of shares has been acquired by a single investor. James laughed. Probably some investment fund that doesn't understand our family business model. Our outdated business model, I muttered, thinking of the modernization plan they'd rejected last year. The same plan I'd quietly implemented through my proxy directors, leading to our first profit increase in 5 years. This investor, Mr. Peterson pressed on, now holds controlling interest in Mitchell & Sons. Dad's smile faltered. That's impossible. We track all major share movements. Apparently not, I whispered, watching Mom shuffle through papers, finally finding the ownership reports she'd ignored for months. The new majority shareholder, Mr. Peterson announced, has some concerns about the company's direction, particularly regarding the proposed CEO appointment. James stood up, face reddening. Now wait just a minute. This is a family company. We decide who leads. Actually, Mr. Peterson smiled, the majority shareholder decides. And they've already chosen a new CEO. Mom's presentation clicker slipped from her fingers. But James is next in line. It's tradition. Perhaps, Mr. Peterson suggested, we should meet this mysterious shareholder before making any decisions? Dad straightened his tie, probably already planning how to charm or bully this interloper into accepting James's leadership. Everyone, Mr. Peterson stood, moving toward the door. Please welcome your new majority shareholder and incoming chief executive officer. I placed my hand on the door handle, thinking of every patronizing smile, every dismissed idea, every family executive's only meeting I'd been barred from. Time to break tradition, I murmured and pushed open the door. The sound of my heels on the hardwood floor echoed through the suddenly silent conference room. Mom's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. James's mouth opened and closed like a goldfish. And Dad looked like he'd seen a ghost. Good morning, I smiled, taking my place at the head of the table. Shall we discuss the future of Mitchell & Sons? Or should I say? I paused, clicking to my first slide, Mitchell & Daughters? This is a joke, James sputtered. Tell me this is a joke. What's a joke, James? The fact that I own the company, or the fact that you lost the Anderson contract because you couldn't be bothered to read a basic agreement? I pulled up his failure record on the screen. Let's review your qualifications for CEO, shall we? Dad found his voice. Now see here, young lady. No, Dad, you see here. I cut him off, switching to the company's financial charts. The red line shows our performance under your traditional leadership. The blue line shows our growth since I began implementing changes through my proxy directors. Notice a difference. The board members nodded appreciatively. They'd seen their portfolios grow substantially since my silent takeover began. But the family voting shares. Mom stammered. You mean these? I held up a folder. The ones you never bothered to track because Sarah just handles the paperwork? I've been buying them for months. Every time you dismissed my ideas, I bought more. Every time you promoted James despite his failures, I acquired another block. You can't do this, James protested. I'm next in line. Next in line to what? Bankrupt us. I projected his project history. The Thompson deal, $15 million loss. The Western expansion, $40 million down the drain. The digital transformation you abandoned halfway through because it was too complicated. That cost us market share we're still trying to recover. Dad stood up, his chair scraping back. This isn't how we do things. The Mitchell name. The Mitchell name, I interrupted, is mine now. Along with 67% of the company's voting shares. And my first act as CEO is to announce some changes to our leadership structure. I clicked to the new organizational chart. James's name was nowhere to be found. James, I turned to my brother. You're being moved to external relations. A non-executive position where you can't sign contracts or make financial decisions. He slumped in his chair, the fight draining out of him. Mom, Dad, I continued, You can keep your board seats as minority members, but operational decisions. I smiled. Those now require the CEO's approval. My approval? You do this to your own family? Mom whispered. You mean like banning me from executive meetings? Or ignoring my proposals without reading them? Or promoting James repeatedly despite clear evidence of incompetence? I raised an eyebrow. That kind of family behavior? We were protecting the company's traditions, Dad insisted. No, I corrected him. You were protecting your outdated ideas about who should lead. And it nearly destroyed us. Check the numbers, Dad. Really check them. See what your traditions cost us, and what my changes have already earned back. I turned to the board members. You've all seen the quarterly reports. Under my indirect leadership, we've increased profits by 40%, modernized our systems and regained market share. Imagine what we can do now that I'm officially in charge. The board's approving murmurs made Dad sink back into his seat. One last thing, I added, pulling out a final document. New company bylaws. Leadership positions will be filled based on merit, not gender or family ties. And executive meetings. I smiled directly at Dad. They're open to all qualified directors, regardless of whether they fit your traditional image of leadership. As security began escorting my family out, standard procedure for leadership transitions, James turned back. How long have you been planning this? Since the first time you closed that door in my face, I replied. Every time you excluded me, I bought more shares. Every time you dismissed me, I gained more control. So really, I smiled, you could say you did this to yourselves. After they left, Mr. Peterson approached with the official CEO documentation. That was quite a show, Ms. Mitchell. The show's just beginning, I replied, signing the papers. Wait until they see next quarter's changes. That evening I sat in my new CEO office, Dad's old office, looking at the company portrait on the wall. Generations of Mitchell men, each passing leadership to their sons. My phone buzzed, a text from James. This isn't over, sis. Dad's calling an emergency family meeting to discuss options. I laughed, sending a quick reply. Glad you mentioned that. As CEO, I'll be attending all family meetings from now on. See you Sunday. Then I turned back to my work.